Hey y'all, it's Heel Heat time.
Hi everybody and welcome to Heel Heat. My name is George Coles and this is our WWE show for the week. Now let's jump right into it. First off, we're going to cover the so-so segments, the portions of the show that I could have lived without or lived with, basically unmemorable. First off, Santino Marella versus Fandango. I don't know who this feud's helping. I know it's not helping Emma. I know it's not helping Summer Rae, and I know it's not helping Fandango. Santino is who he is, but I really just don't care, to be honest with you. He's had some funny portions. For the most part, he plays to that humor that I guess somebody in the back thinks is funny. But for the most part, I don't. And I just think the other people involved could deserve better. Fandango picks up the win on this one. Like I said, Emma's a great wrestler. Her and Summer Rae have had some really good matches in NXT. And their feud, I mean, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's building to that feud on the main roster. Hopefully that's what it does, because it just, to me, it's not that impressive. Next up, we had someone that's usually impressive, Big E Langston, taking on 2/3 of 3MB, Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. Big E picks up the win. Not a bad match, but the reason it's on here is because at no point did I question that Big E was going to win this. I did notice that Drew's wearing trunks instead of the long leather pants. I don't know if maybe he lost his luggage or something, but could be an interesting thing going forward. Maybe they're going to break him from the group. But, you know, just a little, I don't know, just, to me it was too anticlimactic. Which is the same thing that plagued our next match. Los Matadors and Sin Cara versus the Wyatt family. Now, you know, going into a match that they're building as one of the most epic confrontations of all time with the Wyatts and the Shield, that the Los Matadors and Sin Cara did not stand a chance. Decent match. Sin Cara, I've noticed a trend with Bray Wyatt. Sin Cara and both Rey Mysterio, when he's been in the ring with either of these guys, he's looked really awesome. I don't know if it's the fact that he can toss up a... Sorry about that, folks. I don't know if it's the fact that he can toss him around more or what, but their style and his style play off very well against each other. The Wyatt family obviously picks up the win. Coming off of that, we're going to go into our bad segment of the week. Now, we only had one thing I thought was bad, and that was the corny opening with all the participants from the Elimination Chamber: Cena, Cesaro, Sheamus, Christian, Orton, Daniel Bryan, and then Kane coming out. I'm just tired of them opening the Raw. Good thing it wasn't Triple H and Stephanie this week, but I'm tired of them opening Raw with talking segments. I wish they would go back to where they would, you know, actually open up with wrestling. This is a wrestling show, whether they like to admit it or not. Now, coming off of that, we're going to go into our question of the week. Question of the week last week was, do you enjoy these Divas clusterfuck matches? You know, basically what the standard thing they're giving with the division. Before I get into my answer, we're going to give some from our friends. First is from Dizzlepup, and Dizzlepup, I hope I'm saying that right. He says, I can't stand Divas matches. I DVR Raw and I always fast forward to Divas matches. It isn't because they are girls and the screeching, but because the majority of them can't really do much in the ring. I wonder what the hell Lita thinks of this shit. I'm interested to know if any female wrestling fans actually like them. Good call, pretty much what I was going with, and I'm a fan. I don't care if you're a male, woman, it doesn't matter to me. I'm a fan of wrestling. I've liked matches with Lita. I've loved matches with ODB, with Karma, aka Awesome Khan. You know, there have been some really good women's matches over the years. Next answer is from our friend Yellow Lion 3250. The Divas division is so garbage that they should just be showcased on SmackDown. I wonder who is in charge and who writes the storylines for them, because I thought after Lita and Trish and also Layla and Michelle McCool that the Divas division would have a champion and tag team champions, But now when they come on, it's a sign to go take a piss. So generally, the same thing that I've been complaining about over and over again. I don't think anybody hates the Divas specifically. I don't know anybody that dislikes Natalya Neidhart because she's Natalya Neidhart, or AJ Lee. We just don't like how they're being booked, and it's a travesty of justice. They're missing a market that they could tap into easily. I mean, just as many young women could be watching the show as young men. I mean, could you imagine, if you're watching the show with your family, and you got your son, and your son gets to watch John Cena, he loves John Cena, or whoever his favorite is, then your daughter looks up on the screen and what she sees for the girls division is either dancing or goofy 8-woman tag match where they look like crap and no real storyline given. I mean, she's not going to be interested in it as much if she doesn't have someone that can represent for her. It's the same thing if you think about, and I don't want to go too far off the rails on this because we still got a lot to cover on the show. If you think about Mick Foley, the reason he got over so well and Daniel Bryan gets over so well is because the fans could relate to them. We can relate to people saying, no, you can't do this. No, you're not big enough. No, you don't got the right look. We can relate to that. And if you have the Divas where women could relate to them and young girls could go, I could relate to her, she looks like me. She likes sports, I like sports. I think it opens up a whole bag of worms and a whole new demographic that I don't think they're tapping into. Now on to a little bit lighter subject. Our question of the week for next week is, most of us are going to buy the WWE Network. What is going to be the first pay-per-view you watch on the WWE Network? Let us know what you think. Hit us up on Facebook, hit us up on Twitter. Put it down where? Down there in the comments. Now going right into the good segments of the night. The match that was set up by Kane, Daniel Bryan versus Christian. Christian does a somewhat heel turn in the match. Bryan wins. I thought it could have been a little bit better. It was a solid match given the time it was given. I think they used it just to set up the next portion, which was Kane telling Daniel Bryan that's not the only match he has to wrestle Kane as well. And then Kane winning that match by disqualification. The reason I like this combined match so much is because we got to remember, and it's something that JBL keeps saying so it's in our brains, that there's a monster in that suit. That Kane is a monster. I like the little tease with Christian turning heel. I think it works because there's not enough heels in the Elimination Chamber match. I think it's more faces than heels. I mean, you got Cena, Sheamus, and Daniel Bryan right now. It would have been 4-2 face to heel, so you kind of evened it up. You knew someone was going to turn. But good opening two matches, both involving Daniel Bryan. The next one that I thought was fabulous was Roman Reigns versus Mark Henry. Again, at the beginning of the Shield, Roman Reigns was the afterthought. Now he's in the forefront, and he's the guy that has everything you could possibly want out of a main eventer. He put an absolutely stellar match with Mark Henry, showing that he could go with the biggest of the big guys in the WWE, as well as mix it up with the littler guys. The sky's the limit for Roman Reigns, and I would not be surprised if 10, 15 years down the road, when we talk about Roman Reigns, we mention him among the all-time greats like his cousin The Rock, or Stone Cold Steve Austin, or Hulk Hogan, or whoever you might want to compare him to. But I think he's got that potential, and it's really coming out. After the match, we had the standoff with the Wyatts and the Shield. Wyatt's back down. Kind of a foretelling of what would happen later in the night. Now, our next match that I rather enjoyed was Jack Swagger versus Kofi Kingston. Two guys that I think both needed a win. Swagger, I think, more so going into the Intercontinental Championship match at Elimination Chamber. Swagger does pick up the win. At the end, he passes Biggie Langston, who came down for his handicap match we talked about earlier. I think Swagger being booked as a more serious character again. Maybe he's done with his punishment. Who knows? I think he's a guy that we could use in the mid-card and be a solid mid-card hand and be a guy that basically like a gatekeeper. They've always had him in the business, and Swagger could be one of them, and he's credible. He's a former champion. He's done everything you could possibly do in wrestling in the WWE, basically. I mean, there's every time that he wrestles somebody and he puts them over, they can mention he's a former champion, former Money in the Bank winner. You know, so I think it's good to have him in this picture, in this division, in the mid card. It helps build the mid card. Now, next match I want to talk about, and I would have put this at the end if this part wasn't basically in chronological order. But my favorite match of the night: John Cena versus Cesaro. No longer Antonio Cesaro, just Cesaro. One hell of a match. John Cena stepped up and he made Antonio Cesaro look like $1 million. Antonio Cesaro, in return, made John Cena look like $1 million. This was an amazing match. This was a WrestleMania quality main event match. Hopefully, by SummerSlam, we get to see this as a main event in the pay-per-view, because this was awesome. I can't imagine them building on this and doing it much better than that. I think this is one of John Cena's top 10 matches of his career. I think the ceiling that Antonio Cesaro has been hitting up against is starting to crack really bad, and he's about to bust through and go through the roof. I think this was a coming out party for Cesaro. I think this was a reminder for all the people that dislike John Cena how good he actually can be when he has the right opponent, when it's not someone he's wrestled 10,000 times, Randy Orton. I think this is this rejuvenated Cena, who we've seen try and do new things. This made Cesaro look like he's a legitimate threat to a guy like John Cena. And I know there's detractors that say Cena won. Remember, this is pro wrestling. The outcome doesn't really matter. The fact of the matter is that Antonio Cesaro, or just Cesaro now, look like $1 million in this match and look like he could beat John Cena. Now, coming off of that, we had it seemed like a letdown coming off of that. We had Jey Uso versus Billy Gunn. Very solid match. Jey picks up the win. I like how they're using the New Age Outlaws. I kind of think they're going to use them as a transition to get the belts to the Uso brothers from the Rhodeses without the Usos having to beat a face team and dividing the crowd, basically. Jey Uso, Billy Gunn put on a great match. I like the ending where Billy Gunn goes for the Famouser and Jey Uso rolls him up for the pin. It was a good match. Good way to continue their feud and continue the tag feud. And last but not least, the main event of the night, we had Sheamus versus Randy Orton, which ended in a no contest when the Shield attacked Sheamus, which brought down Cena. Daniel Bryan helped Sheamus out. Then Antonio Cesaro and Christian come out. Then the Wyatt family come out. Basically, your two big matches, 12 wrestlers in the ring for the Elimination Chamber, all squaring off. All goes up. Raw goes off the air with everybody fighting. Kind of reminiscent of what they used to do in the Attitude Era, with both WWE and WCW would do this leading into a pay-per-view, give you kind of a teaser of everybody that's going to fight. I thought it was really cool. I enjoyed the ending very much. I more so enjoyed how it ended up than the match that they were having with Sheamus and Orton. Don't get me wrong, both guys are good wrestlers. I just don't think their styles match very well. Now we're going to go right into our rating system for the week. If you've seen the show before, you know we have a 1 to 5 scale. Well, due to some recent changes in WWE, we had to change our scale a little bit. There's different names in different positions. Some of them are the same, some of them not so much. Number 1 is a Great Khali. Number 2 is a Santino Marella. 3 is a Damian Sandow. 4 is a Cesaro. That's the change. Remember, there used to be a guy there that isn't there no more. And number 5 is Daniel Bryan. I'm going to give this show a solid 5 at Daniel Bryan. It was very enjoyable for me. A very good go-home pay-per-view for the Elimination Chamber. something that actually made you want to purchase the match. Jack Swagger and Biggie Langston both showing that they're going to have a good, having good showings leading in their Intercontinental match. The tag title matches is teased on the show. The Wyatts and the Shield is teased all through the show. The Elimination Chamber also teased all the way through the show. I think it's going to be a good pay-per-view. The last of the pay-per-views not to be on the network. I think they're going to go out with a bang, lead into WrestleMania with a good pay-per-view, good solid matches, and have us fans clamoring for more. Now, before I end this video, this morning I woke up, and I do like a lot of us wrestling fans do. I go to the dirt sheet pages, read a little bit about what's going on in wrestling, and I found some sad news today. One of the WWE's big wrestlers in the 90s and a little even into the 2000s, a guy named Nelson Frazier Jr., who you know better as King Mabel, Viscera, or Big Daddy V, depending on when you started watching wrestling. I always call him Mabel because that's the first thing I remember him as, with him in Men on a Mission. But unfortunately, he passed away this morning. He just had turned, I believe it was 43 years old, less than a week ago. Had a massive heart attack. Our thoughts and prayers are with Mr. Frazier's family, his friends, anybody that cared about him. He was a really good worker for a guy of his size. He was a tremendous... His work as the King of the Ring, I thought, was awesome. He kind of gets lumped into a down period in the WWE where business was down and they kind of blame him a bit. But I think he played the character well. His transition into Viscera with the Ministry of Darkness I thought was really cool. And then even the transition out of that into the world's largest love machine, Viscera, and then coming back into reformed ECW. I know, I have bad feelings about that. But as Big Daddy Vis, I thought he was someone that they could have built on. Kind of, his career arc I kind of thought was going to take the way that Mark Henry's had, where he had a couple years of down and then came back and became a main eventer. Sadly, it didn't ever happen for him, but the guy was a heck of a worker, good talent, always good on the show. It's with a very heavy heart I dedicate this show to Nelson Frazier Jr., a.k.a. King Mabel, a.k.a. Viscera, a.k.a. Big Daddy V. But basically, that's what I had to say about that. My name is George Coles, and this has been another episode of Heel Heat.